Good evening. The news gang is here tonight, facing the mountain in mother tongue, the president's central question and the translation. Also on the show, from party after party to acting after acting, the endless confusion at City Hall and the general solution. We'll have an acting conversation. On Yvonne's take tonight, the amazing, brave, new, efficient government of the Republic of Kenya. Jamila is back and the memo is from the church. No politics allowed. The punchline raises the alarm about the limping referee at Anniversary Towers, and the game is already on. The kicker pays tribute to the grand old institutions that became the trump card in America. And the angle is a story of the perennial debtor who lives large and loses 2 billion shillings a day.
Politics doesn't have to be a raging fire, destroying everything in its path. Every disagreement doesn't have to be a cause for total war. And we must reject the culture in which facts themselves are manipulated and even manufactured.
All right, welcome to the program. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is where we must start. Joe Biden being sworn in, the 46th president of the United States of America. A very unlikely choice, he looked like, Linus, some months actually ago, you would say, because even in that protracted Democratic Party primary, no one gave him a chance, but here he is.
A lot was against Joe Biden, and the first thing that was really against him was age. The second thing that was really against him was the performance of President Donald Trump. The economy of the U.S., it must be, give the devil its due, was doing well at the time of the election came. And he looked like a very unlikely choice. He is 78 years old. He'll be the oldest person to be sworn in president of the U.S., and I think he will leave again office as the oldest ever to have served as president. So this is a triumph of the American institutions and systems, because America faced quite a lot of challenges with the unprecedented refusal by President Trump to accept defeat. There are those who called it an African election because the things we saw there, including the recent events where Parliament, the Congress, houses of Congress were attacked by insurrectionists. You see, the last time there was such an incident was in Burkina Faso, when Parliament was attacked and burnt down. So America came close to playing in the same league.
Actually, some people say here we are better off. At least we've never had people storm Parliament and sit on the Speaker's chair.
That's very true. So very unusual, and a very unusual 2 months. But look at how the American Constitution works. There has to be a transition at exactly midday on the 20th day of January, 2 months after the election. So, and it happened, to Donald Trump's surprise.
But that damage, Jamila, that's been done by whatever Donald Trump did for, I mean, between his losing the election and him leaving office, there was quite some damage that was done to the reputation of America, but also on the global front.
Yeah, that is true, Joe, because who would have thought that what was seen at Capitol buildings on 6th of January was something that would have been witnessed in the United States. We were watching it live, and suddenly things changed, and there you go, you see people climbing, and then there were injuries. There were, I think, 6 deaths. Yeah, including, I think, a Capitol police officer. So that was something I don't think America would have thought would ever happen. But as Lina said, the rule of law, democracy prevailed, and the Constitution was followed to the letter. And now Joe Biden is the 46th president of the United States. Donald Trump has left. Yesterday was his last day, and that was it. But I think when you start looking at now what next, even from the speech that President Joe Biden had, he spoke about unity and reconciliation. It was a stark contrast to the speech that was given by Donald Trump exactly 4 years earlier at that same platform there on the Capitol building, where he talked of an end to the American carnage of the Obama years. Yesterday, hours after Joe Biden was sworn in, he signed 17 executive orders, sort of like akibatilisha a lot of what Trump had done, including the building of the wall on the Mexican border. They rejoined the Paris Climate Accord, going back to the stopping U.S. from withdrawing from WHO, mandating that everyone should wear a mask in federal buildings and federal offices. It calls the 100 days of masks. So some of the things that Trump had,
100-day mask challenge.
100-day mask challenge. Some of the things that President Trump had, even in his first few days, I remember even the Muslim ban that happened then, and the issues about immigration. He's rewriting all that, and it is a promise that he had made that immediately he comes into office is going to do. So America is going through a transition, a change. Even in the Senate, yesterday they got to work immediately. Kamala Harris, the new vice president, swore in the two new Georgia senators. At the first time, I think Democrats had senators in Georgia in 16 years, and she herself she had to resign as a senator for California to become vice president. Now she's the president of that, and all this happened hours after swearing in. So I think for the Biden administration, it's just ongoing. There's nothing like the honeymoon period that other presidents have actually experienced, because the past 4 years has been something America had never experienced before.
A lot of work, obviously, but even this whole idea of what the last 4 years, and perhaps more importantly what has happened over the last couple of weeks, have done on the global stage, the damage thereof. I mean, I remember the other day when President Museveni was being interviewed by Amanpour, and was being asked about why they're brutalizing Bobby Wine supporters, and he said, we are also dealing with an insurrection, like what has happened in your country. And I think there's a sense in which it has emboldened bad manners generally around the world, because people used to look at America on this high pedestal as some kind of moral standard when it comes to political hygiene, good governance, and all of these things. And that seemed to have been wiped out almost in an instant. And now people can actually do certain things. And if you were to challenge them from America and say, no, don't worry, it is actually the same thing you are dealing with over there. That's what we are also struggling. Allow us to also just deal with it the way we know.
And I remember a similar incident with the now former Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, when he raised issues about the Tanzania election last year. And, there's just a barrage of tweets with everybody telling him to, mind your own business, mind what's happening in your own country. I think their election had just happened or was on the verge, and, there was quite a bit that was happening there. I mean, I think the Trump era did a couple of things. One, it brought out the real America, and everyone who was calling this an African election, this was an American election. As a famous singer, is he called Danny Glover, said, this is America. And I think he's brought out and emboldened, issues like racism, and just brought that to the fore. I think we're saying, if this was a science class, it would be, Trump being the phenotypical expression of the genotype of America. You see it on the inside, but now you see it out physically in all its manifestations. And I think it also threatened American exceptionalism. I mean, there's no way, that they're going to be able to sit up there on that, like you said, high moral standing and say this is what we're going to do, which is why, Biden is trying to do a lot of things, including America now joining COVAX, which is the global effort to make sure, vaccines get to the countries that need it most, those in the developing world. But what is interesting for me is, what Biden is inheriting. I do not envy this man. He is inheriting an America that is deeply divided. Elections divide people, but no more than what we have seen. It's still, there's still something to be said for more than 70 million Americans who voted for Donald Trump and who still believe, in his politics, in his values. And also interesting to see what Trump does next. He's reportedly forming his own party, the Patriots Party. It'll also be interesting to see, what happens with the conviction, like them wanting to go with this all the way, just almost as a complete repudiation and wiping out of the last 4 years. So, it's interesting that you have a normal person at the White House.
They had a normal press
It was
briefing.
quite
Like,
interesting.
like, what is that? You
It
know?
was interesting, actually, looking at some of the comments that people were making when Jen Psaki,
Yes.
had her
Jen Psaki, yeah.
she had her first press briefing as at the White House, and people were saying, "Where?" So finally, you can actually have a normal press briefing
Right.
in the White House, and that was quite stunning. And Francis, it almost looks like America took a break into some wild, some wilderness, and suddenly America is trying to come back. I mean, we've seen all these things they've done. That display by the three presidents was to me quite spectacular in sort of just sending this message that America is back, but it's not going to be easy. Huh?
It won't be easy, and these are the vagaries of democracy, because we have time and again been told this is the epitome of democracy. This is the home of democracy. Display of institution. One.
Also certain questions
A
like,
system.
yes, it is traditional,
Yeah.
but why does it take so long to swear in the president? I'm sure there was many of them who were saying, listen, the minute Joe Biden was declared the winner, there's no need to wait another month, because now you start to realize that also within their institutions, it really also does depend quite a bit on the goodwill of the people. As we saw with Trump, there was no goodwill, and there was, attempts to do quite a few funny things between the moment when he was declared, the winner of the election to the point he was actually sworn in yesterday.
Yes, the system can be a lot more efficient if they were to borrow from around here. I mean, the period between the election results and the swearing in can actually be collapsed quite a bit. Only that their system has worked for over 200 years and worked so well. I don't think the arrival of Trump, a very unlikely person to occupy the White House, a person who was deemed by many unelectable and still ends up there, should not actually be an indictment of the system. It is a lesson that actually it's possible through democratic elections to end up having the wrong person in office. And not just in America, but world over. It is very, very possible to have a person who strikes the right populist tone, like Trump did, and make their way to the most powerful office. But look at what the entire 4 years looks like. It all looks like a mistake Americans, a majority of them, and the bulk of the world wants to forget.
I think, Joe, what he has said, now the next thing is look at the future of the Republican Party. So what next for them as a party? Because they all rallied behind Donald Trump almost blindly in terms of even voting in the House, even when they, on 6th of January, they were actually trying to stop the confirmation of Joe Biden as the President of the United States. So they rallied behind Trump almost blindly when you. That's why we were surprised when we were listening to like Kevin McCarthy, the minority leader, and then Mitch McConnell speaking so well about Joe Biden yesterday compared to how they had been speaking about him before, even after he had won the election. So what is the future of the Republican Party? Because Yvonne said that Trump is thinking of maybe starting another party. But then what next for the Republican Party? I'm sure in the next 4 years they want to have a strong candidate who will probably run against Biden if he wants to run again, or whoever the Democratic Party candidate will be. So I think it's also time now for the Republican Party to consolidate itself and go back to its values and the qualities that were known to be what the Republican Party was.
Yeah, but you see, there's an interesting shift that I think is happening in America, which explains all the confusion that you see, whether it is in the Republican Party, but also generally you see this tension between traditional America, what we used to know the United States of America as, and the emerging face of the new America, where you have this is why you have all the Latinos, the blacks, basically the people of color, beginning to have a greater impact in what happens in America, because the demographics of the US has so changed over the years that with time people who looked at America in a certain way are beginning to wonder, is this still America? When you see someone like Kamala Harris as a vice president of the United States, you're thinking, one, she's a woman. That hasn't happened before. Secondly, she's not white, and that is a big problem. So it shocks the system. So I think that we are going to see this tension between what used to be and what is becoming in America that will affect especially the Republican Party, to the extent that it represented conservative America and what was seen as the authentic face of America. And that has been thoroughly challenged in this election. And I think that that is going to be the trend going forward. And the Republican Party will, unless they reinvent themselves, continue to be a dying party, a minority party, especially now that Donald Trump's future is not known. If he leaves the Democratic Party, the Republican Party, how much of that base is he going to live with? And then the Republican Party, what does it remain with? What does it look like in a situation where Trump is not there? As a matter of fact, actually, there are people who are saying that a lot of the Republicans are hoping that Donald Trump is impeached, and then he's barred from running for anything else in the future, so that at least it gives them space to remake.
Because he has said he's planning to run again in 4 years. So.
He said we'll be back in some form. Those were his words.
Okay.
All right. So we have gone to the US and back, and here we will be talking about hustlers and dynasties and that address in mother tongue in just a short while. News Gang will be right back after this break.